Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. Now that we've just completed our very first back to homeschool day for 2020 and 2021, I thought that I was going to share with you what our notebooking plans are for this year. I'll tell you what, our 7-week break went so fast this year. Usually we take a 6-week break, but as it turned out, since we usually start the second Monday of July, it just so happened that the second Monday of July was our 7th week. So our kids got an extra week, and you would think that this would have helped me kind of ease into the new plan more. But no, it really came rushing at me, and I wasn't really expecting it to come this fast. But I do have to say that I think that our first homeschool day was a success. It wasn't perfect, but no homeschool day actually is. And if you do have perfect homeschool days, I'm going to applaud you for that, because it's never happened to me. Almost perfect sometimes, but never quite getting there. But that's okay, because no one's perfect. Anyway, I wanted to share with you what our notebooking plans are for this year, because I know that I've made a lot of videos about notebooking, and I just made another one not too long ago. Now, typically what we've been doing is we've been doing a notebooking loop. We were doing, I think, about 4 or 5 different types of notebooking, and we will kind of loop through the 4 of them, and then the 5th one, which was nature study notebooking, we would do just 1 day a week on our nature study day. And I do have a video about our notebooking loop. I'll link that in the description box below. But anyway, I'm going to tell you something. Our notebooking is far less this year than what it typically has been for the past few years. And it isn't because notebooking has become any less effective for us, and it isn't because we don't enjoy doing it anymore, because both of those things are still positive for us. But I found that a lot of times things just ebb and flow in our homeschool, and sometimes when we bring things into a routine, it does kind of push other things out. That does not mean, though, that we're not doing any notebooking at all. It just means that our homeschool is not going to be as notebooking heavy as it had been for the past couple of years. So one of the ways that we're going to be notebooking with my middles, and that's my kids who I have, how many of them now? 5 of them in my middles, and they are from 2nd grade to 8th grade. They're going to be doing copy work. So they're going to have a copybook, and this is going to be happening with our unit study. With our unit studies, we very often will use passages from the Bible as copy work that coincide with what we're learning about in our unit study. So for example, we started out with ants. So the copy work for today, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it was just Proverbs 6:6-9. Take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, they labor hard all summer, and so on and so forth. So I think you get the picture, though. So we are still going to be having a copybook for our unit study. Before, we used to use copybooks for Shel Silverstein. Now, I will leave a link in the description box also on copywork in case you really aren't sure what it is. Just, for a very brief summary of what it is it's just basically you have your kids copy down word for word, punctuation for punctuation, capital letter for capital letter, a passage or a poem or a Bible verse. It could be a song, it could be anything. And it's just to get them some writing practice in. And copywork is really good for those kids who don't like to write their own individual works. It's good for those kids who are kind of just easing into writing, and this way when you correct their copy work, if they've done things on it that are incorrect, like I see on my daughter's copy work that she did today, she did not capitalize where she should have all the time. So when I do tell her about that, it's not quite as much of a blow as if she would have written this from her heart, and then I would be coming in and saying, hey, you forgot a capital letter there. So copy work is really good for those kids who just really are just getting into writing or just don't like it at all. So copy work is one form of notebooking that we're still going to be doing this year. So my throat has been like really tickly. I think it's my allergies. Anyway, so another form of notebooking that we're still going to be using this year, but in a much less intentional way, is our unit study notebook. Now, we were doing unit study notebooking last year. This was one, actually copywork and unit study notebooking were both on our notebooking loop. And before, when we would do our unit study notebooking, whenever the unit study notebook would come up on a loop, I would make sure that day that my kids did some form of notebooking with an area of the unit study that we had been learning about. So what we're actually going to be doing this year with our unit study notebook is, if we so happen to be doing an activity in our unit study that would fit into a notebook, we're going to be putting it in there. And that is really the extent of our unit study notebook for this year that I'm planning so far. So for example, tomorrow my kids will be writing their own fable. Today I read to them the fable of the ant and the grasshopper, and tomorrow I'm going to have them write their own fable. So I'm going to give them each a piece of notebooking paper, and if you don't know what notebooking paper is, here's just an example of what one of those might look like. I'm going to give them each a notebooking page, and I'm going to have them write their own fable on a notebooking page, and then we are going to add that to our unit study notebook. Now, before, I used to use a separate notebook for every subject that we were doing in our unit study. But when you have as many kids as I do, and when you have a small house, it's not always conducive to having a separate notebook for every single unit study topic that you cover. So what I've actually started doing is I just got a big binder now, and every time that we start a new unit study, I just put a divider in, and that actually space-wise is so much better for us. Okay, so now I'm still on my middles. So once a week, they are going to be working in their fun schooling journals. And yes, I do consider these to be notebooking. Here's one. Here's the other. And I have links for these too, that I did videos of them, unboxings, and I think I did a review on a few of them. And these are nice. Now this is for my 7-year-old, and it's to help her with her spelling. And there's just little different things that she can do. Here, she's supposed to search the house for different words. So what this really is like to me, it's like a ready-made notebook. In the other types of notebooking that we were doing, it was kind of, I would just have my kids, they could pick out their own notebooking page, and they could just notebook any way that they wanted. If they wanted to do a comic strip, they could do that. If they wanted to draw something and then write a caption or a story, they could do that. If they wanted to write a narration, they could do that. And with the fun schooling journals, they actually are given ideas on what to do in the fun schooling journals. So here's one, for example. This is in the Minecraft Fun Schooling Journal, all about pets. And here there's spelling time. You're supposed to write a silly story, poem, song, or play using words from your spelling list. And over here there's a comic strip that they were supposed to write. So I think these fun schooling books are good for the kids who kind of get stuck in a rut with their notebooking, and they start kind of just doing the same thing all the time, over and over, like maybe always doing comic strips, or always writing narrations, or always writing stories, and then it kind of gets boring to them. So these just give them different ideas that they might not have otherwise come up with on their own. So this is once a week that my kids are doing, my middles. The unit study notebook, again, they're just kind of putting things in whenever we happen to complete them in our unit study. So I don't have a set number of days for them to be adding things to their unit study notebook this year. And as for the copy work, they're going to be doing that, I would say, at least once a week, because we usually do at least one Bible verse that they will use as copy work a week. And then sometimes they might be doing additional copy work throughout the week. It really depends on what we're doing in our unit study. So now, getting into my two high school daughters now. I just noticed now that I don't have one of their books here. I'm gonna have to pause it then and go over and get it. So, but for now, they both also have fun schooling journals. Now, they work in them twice a week instead of the once a week that my other kids are doing. So, and as you can see, this is kind of like finish the story. So she was able to write a story. Here's an animal study, and it says, like, describe my habitat. And this is the perfect thing for my 16-year-old daughter because she absolutely loves animals. So this is a great notebook for her to be using this year. She also started it last year, I should say. And then my 14-year-old daughter is using a do-it-yourself curriculum, Fun Schooling with Minecraft. But again, this is the notebook that she is using this year. And if you see, this one even has copy work in it. And again, it just has a lot of different ideas that they might not have thought of when they were doing their own sorts of notebooking pages before, where they were just kind of blank and I would just let them choose what it was that they wanted to write about. So one day a week, my kids, my high schoolers, are going to be starting interest-led notebooks. This was something else that we used to have on our notebooking loop, and we used to kind of loop through it. We would do it like once a week. Sometimes it might turn out to be twice a week. But with their interest-led notebooks, my kids usually picked animals. Now, my oldest daughter, who just graduated last year, she did all sorts of stuff for her interest-led notebook. She did medicinal plants, and she learned about Egyptian mythology. She learned about World War II. She did a section on folklore, so she just like really went everywhere with her interests. But my 16-year-old, I told my 14-year-old and my 16-year-old that I want them to think of a topic that they really want to learn about, like delve deeply into this year. And I said, you don't have to do it all year long, even if it's just for like a month or two, just to learn more about it. What do you want to do for your interest-led notebooking? So my 16-year-old, I was kind of expecting this. She wanted to do something with animals again. So what we're going to do is probably study a lot of marine animals with her. So maybe marine zoology, marine biology. We're going to work out the kinks on that yet and see what we're going to call it. But that is what she is going to be using for her interest-led notebook. Now, my 14-year-old, she hasn't really come up with a topic yet, and we started school now. So I told her, you have until Wednesday morning, and by Wednesday morning, I need to know what you want to learn about so we can go to the library and you can start working on this once a week. So just to give you a glimpse of an interest-led notebook, this is really old, and this is my daughter that I mentioned loves animals. This is her animal notebook, and with the interest-led notebooks, it's what I was talking about before. I just let them choose their own topic. They choose their own notebooking pages. They can really decide what it is and how they want a notebook every single day. As long as I know that they are learning something new, they can notebook however they want. So as you can see, you know, she was actually very good about having a lot of variety in what she would write about. Sometimes she would write stories. Sometimes she would write like fact sheets. Other times she might draw it. Here's one. Sometimes she would do comic strips. And so that's what an interest-led notebook is. And of course, I do have a video on interest-led notebooks. I'm actually going to just link my whole notebooking playlist in the description box rather than having like 10 different notebooking videos linked down there. I'm gonna link my whole notebooking playlist. That way you can go on there and you can pick and choose which ones you would like to, you know, watch. Okay, now the last notebook that my kids are going to be doing in their homeschool is, again, it's my high schoolers, and this is for their history. So what they are going to actually be doing is they are going to be doing a history timeline notebook. And so when I say timeline notebook, I don't mean just a line with years and, you know, like people's names or events written underneath it. They are going to be using the giant American history timeline. And what this has in it is it has, now some people might call them worksheets. I tend to look at them a lot as notebooking pages because it gives them a lot of flexibility in what they're going to write about. Sometimes it's a little bit more directed. But what they are going to do is twice a week they're going to work from this, and they're going to learn about U.S. history. I think it's really important at this point in time. And they're going to just put a sheet in their timeline notebook, and they're going to do them in order. So as you can see, we can consider it a timeline because all of these worksheets or pages or whatever you call them, they are in order. So they're going to go through them, they're going to learn this history, and they're going to put all of these right in. It's just a white binder that I gave them. Now, obviously, the timeline sheets themselves aren't enough. They have to obviously get that information from somewhere. So right now, I do have an American history book that I'm using just for the time being because I'm not like really thrilled with it. This was kind of a last minute idea for my girls to learn history this way. We were actually going to do it completely differently, but they didn't look very happy with that. So I changed it up at the last minute. So yeah, we're using a history book that has the information that they need, but we're just using it temporarily. But they're also going to be reading that history book until I get a new one, and they're going to be answering the questions at the end of each chapter, and they're just going to answer just on a regular piece of lined notebook paper. And I'm going to put them in the history timeline notebook though. I'm just going to have a divider, and the front part is going to be all of the timeline worksheets. And then after that is going to be all of the answers to the chapter questions that they're going to be doing. So anyway, yeah, if you've been here a while and you know how much we use to notebook, you'll see that to the outside, world, to people who haven't seen what we usually do in our homeschool when it comes to notebooking, this might look like a lot of notebooking, but really it's not compared to what we used to do. But it's something that my kids are still going to be getting a lot of writing experience in, and I'm really happy with the Fun Schooling books and the different ideas that they give to the kids, and I'm just looking forward to see what this year is going to bring for us. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram, because YouTube always disables my comments. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.